Good morning and welcome to a Sunday morning edition of Talkin' Pop Culture with Jake D. We are here to discuss WandaVision. It is a newly released show on Disney Plus featuring characters from the MCU whom we maybe have not gotten to know as well as perhaps we would like to. Over the course of the movies that they have been in. So WandaVision, right off the bat, starts off totally different than anything we have seen come out of Marvel ever, really. The setting and the aesthetic of this and just the general approach and presentation is something new. It's something experimental. And that in and of itself has got my attention. We've now been treated to the first 3 episodes of this show, and the radical departure from the really formulaic approach that we got from the MCU movies over the past 10 years is a breath of fresh air. The immediate drop of the first 2 episodes all by itself gives you this very, very different world than anything we've experienced coming out of Marvel Entertainment at all. And I, for one, absolutely love it. We've got a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is something that you don't see anymore. And it's immediately intended to frame this world that is built around this approach to, I think, an idolization of old American perception in the world, which I believe has a lot to do with how Wanda perhaps perceived America as a child growing up. One of the things that I remember as a younger man was Nick at Night, which would present to us all these old television shows. It was a good way on Nickelodeon for them to get some syndicated content that was a little bit more adult, but the kids could still enjoy because it was wholesome enough. And that is exactly what we see from WandaVision. And there's a lot of theories about why this is going on and how this has been created, what this world is, that I think people are really enjoying. I have seen, in particular, from folks that perhaps have been frustrated with, again, the formulaic and somewhat simple approach in the MCU movies. These people, including myself, have become really engaged in WandaVision. And the big part about that is this radical departure from what we have seen before. And, that's an interesting comment, Lord Thoth. And let's say hello to the chat really quick. We've got just another red shirt here. We have, of course, the Great Wrench, Lord Thoth. The both of you are the Great Wrenches for the channel, by God. And you haven't seen number 3 yet, or you jump in. All right, well, fair warning. I certainly will be getting into spoilers, including episode 3. The presentation of this world, of this television world, is clearly something odd is happening here. In the first episode, we get a really 1950s view of television, and it calls back to, in particular, the Dick Van Dyke Show, and right to the opening scene where Vision phases through the ottoman and doesn't trip over it. And of course, Dick Van Dyke, in the intro to his show, he would come into the house and there's an ottoman there. Sometimes he'd trip and sometimes he'd step around it. And Vision just went right through the thing. And one of the first questions that I'm asking myself is, how is Vision even here? Because Vision, of course, died rather horribly in Infinity War and was not somebody who was restored to life by Hulk's snap. So how is he even here? And there's an overarching presentation to this that apparently this was even filmed in front of a live studio audience. You've got laugh tracks and the whole bang. The timing of the comedy in this show, personally, I found it absolutely hysterical, and I was incredibly entertained by the way that they approached the comedy with a good level of self-awareness, and they're really camping up all of these old TV show tropes that 1950s and 60s TVs shows, particularly sitcoms, had about them. You'd get these funny looks from the characters and these jokes that, because you're in on the concept that something is wrong about this world and it's not necessarily a real world, they carry a self-awareness to them that is, to me, extremely entertaining. And the delivery by Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda and Paul Bettany as Vision is just, it's spot on the money for exactly what they're trying to show us. And it very brilliantly acted by both of these two leads. In the first episode, they arrive within this town of Westview, and there's a lot of gaps in their knowledge of who they are, what they are, how they got there, why they're there. And we get a really neat, again, 50s sitcom setup where there's a heart on the calendar and nobody knows what the hell the heart is for. But neither Vision nor Wanda want to admit to each other that they don't know what it's about. And so they just play it up and they roll with it as like, no, I didn't forget. What are you talking about? I could never forget something so important to us. And they both play with this, and Vision knows that he should never be able to forget anything. So he just rolls it off, and he can't admit that there maybe is something wrong with his memory, because there can't be anything wrong with his memory, which creates a lot of fun. And we get Vision then going to work, right? And every time he goes out the house, he has to put on his human face, which is a fun device that we get in the show, because Wanda and Vision are trying to not let the people of Westview know that they're special, that they have powers, that there's something different about them. And Wanda is portraying the stereotypical 50s sitcom housewife. And the two of them, their chemistry is outstanding. Weird things going on in the first episode, though, of course. Vision goes to work. Vision is clearly there. This is Vision. We don't know how, but it is Vision. He's obviously his own sentient entity. He's got his own thoughts. He's definitely there. It is the Vision we saw in the movies. And he's questioning his surroundings. He's at work and he's doing his work, and it's computational analysis, right? So he's just banging out on a calculator, coming up with all these reports and getting these things done. But he doesn't know what his company does. And really, when he asks the people that are there at work with him what it is that they do, they don't really answer the question, and they don't necessarily seem to know either. Now, later in the series, we discover that a lot of these characters that are around Wanda and Vision are not necessarily part of Wanda's creation. They are people who have gotten into it from the outside, presumably to figure out what the hell is going on and try to resolve whatever the problem is that's created this world to begin with. You don't see that in the first episode, but we do start to learn that by the third. And anybody who watched the trailer should already be at least somewhat aware of this, because we get scenes in the trailer that are at least from the fourth and maybe even fifth episodes or later of this limited run. So we know that these people are coming in from the outside. Vision finds out the little heart on the calendar is significant of his boss, Mr. Hart, and his wife coming over for dinner. In the meantime, Wanda's at home and she meets the neighbor, Agnes, who is brilliantly played by, I believe it's Catherine Hahn is the actress, who is so good. She comes over and she meets Wanda, and they have this, neighbor wife chat, and she comes up with a plan to help Wanda really impress her husband on their anniversary. Vision comes home with the boss and his wife, Mrs. Hart, played by, and I always forget the actress's name, but it's Kitty Foreman from that 70s show. And she is so good in this episode. It's a lot of fun watching her. You never do get her name. You just know that she's Mrs. Hart. And the Wanda comes out in a sexy outfit, and immediately they have to figure something out and get dinner ready for these guys, because if they don't, then Vision might get fired, because it's important to Mr. Hart that his employees impress him when he comes over for dinner. And the dinner party is hysterical because, once again, Agnes comes over and tries to help Wanda prep this dinner in the kitchen. She's using her powers in the kitchen, but they're trying to make sure that the Harts don't see what's going on, which is just fun. And yes, just another red shirt. I agree. They are absolutely targeting the MCU audience. In terms of a Marvel jumping on point, this is a really bad one. I think this only plays well to people who have been MCU fans for the majority, if not the entirety of the run, or at least the later parts of it. Because if you are not up on what's happened through at least Infinity War and Endgame, you're going to be pretty clueless as to what the hell is going on here. And also knowing that this is going to be setting up Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness adds a level to this that if you didn't know that, I'm not sure how fan reaction would truly be. One of the biggest scenes that really clues you into the self-awareness and that there's something really creepy happening here is Mr. Hart starts choking on a part of the dinner, and Mrs. Hart, at first she's laughing, and then she starts basically commanding Wanda to take control of the situation. She's, stop it, stop it, stop it. And she acts like she's talking to her husband, but she's really sending the message to Wanda that she's got to fix this, right? So there's an assumption that Mr. Hart is definitely truly a real person, because Vision has to save his ass, and he phases in and he grabs whatever it was that Mr. Hart was choking on just out of his body, and it resolves the situation. But this scene with Mrs. Hart looking at her husband, but really trying to message to Wanda, is a really big clue that some of these characters are from the outside and trying to interact with Wanda and Vision. And Red Shirt says, not just what's going on, Wanda and Vision are just as much new, unknown characters as the neighbor or the boss. Yes, they are, because neither one of them has been explored really in depth in the movies. And with the exception of, we do get the scene that they've, of course, come to love each other in Infinity War, but you don't have a lot of their character development overall from the past movies. So in a way, we're experiencing it now. In the middle of the episode, there is a mock 1950s commercial that comes up, and it's for a Stark toaster. And it just sort of comes out of the blue in the middle of the episode, but it feels very natural because you're sort of living this television show through Wanda's, I believe it's through Wanda's head. She has created this world. And the Stark toaster seems to be malfunctioning possibly in the commercial, but you get this little flashing diode light on it. And it is the only thing in this episode that is presented in color. It's this red light flashing on the toaster. And I think we will get a little more information about what the significance of that was as the show goes on. But to me, I took it as the real world trying to get into this place that Wanda has created. And it seemed the color is definitely significant. Moving into the second episode, we've now transitioned more into the 60s. We're still in black and white, but you're getting much more of a Bewitched vibe. And the set of the home has changed. It is not the same home that they were in the first episode. There's, you don't notice it unless you're really looking for it, but a fair bit of the layout has adjusted in the second episode. You no longer have the ottoman on the floor that Vision has to step around, and you've got just a totally different house. The roughing of it is still the same, but all the decorative touches have changed, and so there's a lot different about the house. But it's subtle enough that if you're not looking for it, you may not have noticed it. We get the general setup of the second episode is, again, a typical sitcom from the 50s and 60s, strange situation. There is a talent show being put on by the town, and the talent show is for the children.
All right, hold on a second.
Hey, and welcome to my good buddy, 32 Flavors of Nickweiser. How are you, my friend? Oh, you've muted yourself, Nick. I'm sure he is adjusting his setup right there, and will get on with us in a moment. Nick, how are you?
I cannot believe this is... All right, I think we're good.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm hearing you fine.
No?
You're coming through. So we're just setting up.
Hold on, let me boot out, because this is insane.
All right, Nick will be back in a minute. So the second episode is set up around this concept of the talent show, and we hear this refrain, for the children, which I was reminded of Hot Fuzz and the Community Watch Alliance, where they're always talking about for the greater good, right? And it was a lot like...
Now I can hear you.
Hey, all right. Our good buddy, 32 Flavors of Nickweiser. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Oh, dude, I am just having a hell of a time talking about a great new show that we've been treating to, man. I was just laying out the setup for the second episode of the Magic Show.
The Magic Show?
Yes, the Magic Show.
Fenrir,
and Fenrir the Ice Wolf, good morning, Fenrir. Thank you for joining us, my friend.
Hail to you all. Good morning.
I hope
So we're just getting into the basic plot of the second episode, Fenrir. With we have a magic show set up for the town. It's a fundraiser.
The black and white episode.
Yes,
I guess they were both black and white, but
they were. But we got the fundraiser, and you get this refrain from the townspeople of "for the children," right?
That was so bullish.
There weren't any kids there, right? I don't think I saw a single kid there.
None. We haven't seen any kids at all. But this is for the children, which I was reminded of, and it occurred to me later. Really was. You guys remember in Hot Fuzz when the Community Watch Alliance was always talking about for the greater good?
Yeah.
It felt like that to me.
Dude, I can see the parallel. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Oh, man. And as we're setting up for the talent show, you've got Vision and Wanda sort of head off to their two individual meetings. That Vision goes off to meet with the Neighborhood Watch, which is all the guys. And Wanda goes off to meet with Dottie.
At the club.
Yeah, she's the head housewife, right? The big one. And so these two different meetings, so Vision continues like kind of cluing in that something's not right about this world that he's living in. And Wanda is getting similar vibes that maybe there's outside forces present in her little world that we've got created here. So Fenrir, I really like the character of Dottie. What was your impression of her?
Well, I don't know. I'm constantly getting this that this this manipulative vibe. Like there's something else this character knows, but it's not saying it. Maybe because it is the one behind all of this, or because it has itself no knowledge of what the hell's going on, but doesn't want to interfere out of fear.
Yep. No, I don't disagree with that impression. Nick, give me your thoughts on Dottie, man.
Dottie, oh man. Well, seeing that I feel like she's definitely up to something not good right at the bat. I mean, she's like that one who runs this Westview town, and I thought that scene with her and Herba, do these earrings make me look fat? That was hilarious.
In episode 3, yeah.
Oh,
that was good.
Beautiful scene. But this whole for the children thing and her being like this whole running the town, I wonder, I think either her or Agnes there's something up with one of them too. Like Agnes comes off as great, but I think she's the bait and switch truly to it all.
Okay.
I think Agnes is the true bait and switch all, but with Dottie, I think she's just in on it with the herbs and the fills. I think she's just in on it with them. That's where I'm thinking.
Fair enough, man. So, so Dottie gets pissed at Wanda because she's interacting and chatting with Geraldine, who in episode 3 refers to herself as Foxy.
And she's definitely Monica Rambeau, by the way. She's Monica Rambeau.
She's Monica Rambeau.
Yeah. I still think the MCU did her dirty.
No, Captain Marvel did do her dirty, Fenrir. We'll save that conversation for Friday night, and that's a promise, because they shafted her in that movie. And it sounds like you and I have a lot to say on that. But Jake, carry on.
Yes. So Geraldine is Monica Rambeau. And they haven't explicitly stated that in the show yet, but we know that because of pre-show announcements and casting lists and things like that. And so they're chatting and making friendly at Dottie's little meeting, and she's pissed, right? Because the focus is not on Dottie.
Yeah, she loves that attention, man. She loves that attention, and she's like, she wants everyone to be like, all like, you better be listening to me. Hey, what's with the chatting over there? Like, but then all of a sudden she sees them doing all their tricks, and she wants to make buddy with Wanda and Vision after she sees all their fantastic show. That was really that was such a well done thing, because it was just like they had to literally use their powers and then to cover up their tricks. So I'm like, that's like the ultimate magicianry, or whatever the word is you want to use for that.
Yeah, those actions of hers wouldn't make me surprised if in the end of all this she ends up being Mephisto, or a servant of Mephisto or something.
Oh yeah,
trying to get control of the dimension.
I have seen a number of theories on that, and it would not shock me.
At the end of the second episode with the beekeeper guy, and is that just Wanda or some kind of interdimensional demon?
Good question, man, because in the second episode, the commercial that we get is a lot different. It's the one with the watch, right? And on the watch, it says Hydra and Strucker. So we're getting, I think that is potentially telling us that we've got opposing forces trying to get into Wanda's world. And to your point, Fenrir, what is the nefarious force? Is it something to do with Mephisto? Is it just the old Hydra still hanging around that we've seen? It could be any number of things. And talk to me a little bit more about this theory about Mephisto, because I've read some about it, but I'm not as, I guess, clued into that theory as some folks.
Well, mainly because he's an interdimensional being, basically the devil of the entire Marvel Comics universe. And he's attracted to magic in many ways. And Wanda's powers aren't only just her mutant genetics, it's also mystical with the Chaos Force. So she's a perfect catch for him in many ways. So he would definitely be attracted to her. So the version of the MCU would probably also be attracted to this version of the MCU. because we all know there are magic properties to her powers in this cinematic universe.
Absolutely.
Still haven't shown it yet.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah,
a fair point. We have not even come close to seeing the full scope of Wanda's powers.
Exactly. She can literally do anything she wants to the whole universe. They have. I'm gonna be honest. I'm still a bit disappointed with these two episodes because they're not exactly showing everything she could do, except for those rewinds and going backs. It's not showing. Do.
Yeah, and that we'll chat about that because that gets into the Beekeeper a little bit later. But we do get again 2 instances of color invading the black and white world during the second episode. The first one is right before she goes to the wives' meeting. Wanda finds a red and yellow helicopter in her shrubbery. In her shrubberies. So, now, red and yellow have been,
dominant
of course,
colors,
traditionally sort of associated with Iron Man in the MCU, right? And we need to think in context of MCU, not necessarily the comics, because as we all know, these are definitely different worlds.
They are definitely different worlds, but I will say, as someone who's read like Avengers Disassembled and the Vision miniseries,
the House of M,
they are paying a good amount of respect to the comics, and dare I say, more so than most recent MCU movies. So I got to give respects to them for that, because I didn't think that would happen. I usually they're, and that's fine. You don't have to be a diehard fan to play up the character or be the writer, but if you are acknowledging that material and paying respects to it, it gets big bonus points for the comic fans, and they're gonna want to incline to check it out that much more by way of default, by that, seeing that. That's like, oh, and then you're gonna get that chat that says, hey, if you got the comic fan talk about it, they're gonna want to talk about how much more they are gonna want to, like it, because we all have, at my store where I work at, a lot of people go to me as like, hey, how does this compare from this movie to the book? I'm kind of like, I'm sitting on my throne. This is how it compares. I'm the go-to guy.
For me, I'm literally just waiting for a scene where she says, no more something, no more life, no more mutants or something. I'm literally just waiting for that. I'm just waiting for something like that.
Right?
I almost think we're going to get the reverse of that. It's right. So now I didn't personally read House of M because by the time that rolled out, I had checked out of the floppy books myself. I mean, I stopped reading comics proper roughly when I went to college. 23 years ago, give or take, which predated House of M and Avengers Disassembled. I'm familiar with the stories to an extent, right? So, I mean, I know that Wanda, went off her fucking rocker and she basically wiped out almost all of mutant kind in House of M. And I have become more and more convinced we're getting sort of a reverse House of M, and this show is the groundwork for it. And
I could see that, actually. I could see where you get from with that. Yeah, I could actually see that.
Yeah, it could work. I mean, I thought they were going to use the Thanos energies on the planet thing to make mutants, but this could work too.
Yeah, that was where I was expecting it too. Was it was going to be somehow related to the snaps, but we haven't seen it yet. And I mean, we know Wanda is an ungodly powerful being.
Yeah, she is very powerful, and it seems like this show is going to make her fully realize her power set. This is definitely going to help her fully realize, and I think with her, I mean, whether it's Mephisto or, in my opinion, I think it's Nightmare pulling the strings on her, and either or makes sense. Yes, because she's going to be in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Nightmare is a very prominent villain of Strange, and Nightmare is the perfect guy who could mess with Wanda's head. This could all be a Nightmare type of thing.
Yeah, the Nightmare realm. He could use that to control her.
Yeah, see, that's why I think it's Nightmare. But Mephisto would be cool too. I wouldn't mind if it's Mephisto. Either way, these are both
he's the
prominent
of the
villains. Yes.
Lucifer won.
So
Yeah, and that's a fair call out, Nick, because we do know Nightmare's involved with the Multiverse of Madness.
oh yes, and he has to be the one pulling the strings out, and you gotta have that right moment that strikes Wanda. The fact that she could lose her children, lose Vision twice. This is how you fully unlock her power set. This is the right way. This is one of those things where I'm kind of hopefully predicting right, and this would be a good predictable because sometimes when someone like, oh, it's so predictable and it ends up being bad, this could be one of those good predictables. And I really hope this is where it leads. If I end up being wrong and there's some other awesome, believable, makes sense written for the story type of the way she gets her power, cool. But this truly feels like this is where it's leading. And this could be my razor fist, fuck you, I was right moment.
Everybody's entitled to one of those.
So you heard it here first, in case.
You know, it's funny because when reading online speculation, I'm not hearing Nightmare come up at all, like anywhere.
Yeah, I was also really on my fence though, but now that I remember Nightmare, the chances are a lot more sensible because he is literally an enemy of the mind. He can control anyone through their reality. He could really mess with Wanda and make this is reality, kill her whole family, make her break and destroy actual reality.
Yeah, and this is the perfect ploy. I'm telling you guys, it's the perfect ploy. So
we know Wanda is unstable. I mean, she is vulnerable to an attack from a Nightmare type character.
Mm-hmm. And that's why she is going to need someone with the help of a sorcerer like Strange. I'm just saying.
Remember, she herself has dealt with a lot of powerful beings. I mean, she literally babysitted a god.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. Man, that was a while ago, dude.
Yeah, I think I have a comic around here about those times. I collect old schools.
Mm-hmm.
Too much of those.
Never too much. No such thing. Don't you dare say that. Too much of those. No too such thing.
There's literally 2 boxes of it in my room that I can't literally find it.
You just gotta believe in yourself and you'll find it. Commit.
Yes. There's a lot of cool, it's funny because to Fenrir, they're going to be cool old back issues that he hasn't seen. But to me, it's just what I read when I was a kid. in the same way that I found some cool back issues when I was a teenager. That was just what my dad read when he was a kid. So.
Can I mention? I'm not sure if any of you guys caught this. I remember when watching the third episode, and there's that moment when Vision's like, "There's something wrong with you," and I thought something went wrong with my TV. That I found out that's just part of the episode because it was like his own moment of rewind. Because I thought there's something was wrong with me too. Because at least with the second episode with the rewind, it was very obvious. It was part of the show. Or I literally thought there's something wrong with my TV when that happened.
Because we didn't get the same.
Yeah, we didn't get that same effect. Yeah, so I really thought, I'm like, did something go wrong with my TV? Crap.
It was more subtle the way that they rewound in episode 3. Before we start popping into episode 3, though, man, I want to get into in the after meeting where Wanda is helping Dottie clean up.
Yes.
Right. And we get the other instance of color.
Yes.
From that episode.
The blood.
Right?
Yes.
The blood, right? The bright red blood after Dottie crushes a glass in her hand. And, once again, I think the intent of that is to try to show the outside world trying to get in.
Ooh, see, I didn't think of that, Jake. That's good. That could be the outside world getting in.
Thing. But that makes kind of sense.
It does. It could be the real world, slipping through the cracks. It's the real world slipping through the cracks. Yeah, I like that. No, totally. And between that and when the radio frequency is going out with Wanda, which is totally soared, by the way, by the way. So this is their gateway of getting mutants. I mean, with the X-Men, and this is the gateway. I mean, I don't think we're gonna see like your Wolverines or Jean Greys for a while, but I think we're gonna get
if it's Sword, Beast's got to probably be there.
He should be, but what? And I agree with you. He should be, but I've noticed like this. This is gonna come back to how Spider-Man is involved. When Spider-Man got involved, there was a few main characters they kept, but they also went with a very different batch of characters. Since the X-Men covered a lot of characters, I feel they're gonna like at first, right out the bat, they're gonna cover characters that we don't see as often, like Brand, who is a very prominent member of Sword. So, but they're gonna start with these like other lesser known characters, not ones that normies know as well, and then they'll dive into the other Wolverines of the world because people are still
that's why
feeling
I said Beast would be there.
he should be. He absolutely should be.
Yeah, because
I'm amazed.
At some point.
Yes, and
I remember they
Lord
were
Thoth, Fantastic Four as well. Oh God, dude! Yep. I mean, you're speaking to a Johnny Stormaholic here. Maybe you should come on my Friday night panel with me and Fenrir so we can talk comics, because that's where I'm going to do Friday night. But anyways, back to WandaVision.
Yeah,
yes.
We should probably talk about how we're probably going to ruin Johnny in the next Fantastic Four movie. Let's be honest, they hate people with this personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've not been good to Johnny, that's for sure.
Anyways, it's totally Sword. Back on subject. I'm always guilty of that. I'll take ownership. So it's totally Sword. Yeah, I just think, okay, so Monica Rambeau's got to be affiliated with Sword. I want to know who else is involved in Sword, because there's no way this is not Sword. If it is, this is the ultimate bait and switch ever. But I think it's Sword. It's got to be.
I mean, I think they've set it up pretty clearly that it's Sword. And Russ, asks if the color's the outside world seeping in. what is that red diode on the Stark Industries toaster? And I think
it's an homage to Iron Man. It's an homage to Iron Man psychologically. She knows he's dead, so in a way, kind of remembering it.
That is definitely one possibility, Fenrir. Mm-hmm. I think that was Sword first getting into Wanda's illusion. They're probing. They're penetrating into this illusion that she's built up and created.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, that's totally what it is. They're trying to get in there, and that's why they got that whole field set up, and it's like one of those things. Kind of reminds me of that Simpsons episode, Homer 3D, the Halloween special, where world, and then they
Tron rip.
Yes. The Tron rip up. They made a circle around that wall, and that was like their field equipment. They need to find a way to get into that underworld. This is the Homer 3D of the MCU, like equivalent.
Yeah,
and that ending. I mean, now he's walking in the real world.
I mean, yes, that was a creepy episode.
But that's if you look at the parallels, it makes sense, and that's how, especially someone who's listening on the chat, who knows The Simpsons, that's how you can make that sense in normie terms. Like, that's basically simply what's going on. They're trying to get into the Homer 3D world, and they're having trouble pulling Wanda out, whereas Bart and the family are trying to get Homer out. And obviously we all know that failed. But that's what's going on here with WandaVision, is Homer 3D, but for MCU.
Yeah, and if it's so, Lord Thoth says, if it's Sword, it opens up the cosmic aspects of the Marvel universe. Absolutely. And we know that Sword is established.
Of the war into this.
Yeah, and we know that Sword is well established because we saw it at the end of Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So the Nick Fury that was in Far From Home wasn't even fucking Nick Fury.
Nope.
It was Talos, right?
Yes, Talos. Too. Yes. That was a smart twist, by the way, dude. Now I'm just wondering, Sword is a great way of bringing mutants into the MCU. It really is. It really is a good way. I'm hoping, because
I think there's a small problem in all this of mutants in the MCU. I mean, I love mutant superheroes, but I don't think they would kind of work, specifically if it's the same universe. I think it's best if it's two alternate universes, because in the MCU main Earth, they love the superheroes they have, from Thor to Iron Man, Captain America. Just them starting to hate mutants out of the blue would make no sense, especially if it's just some mutants with small, insignificant things compared to a guy who can literally destroy a whole city with a hammer. It's insignificant. The hate. I mean, the racism. I get it, but it wouldn't make sense to me. Just them hating this one and hating that one doesn't make sense.
They'd have to move away from that storyline because let's be fair here. No matter how much of the X-Men movies you like or don't like, that storyline was very heavily focused on who was right, Xavier and Magneto. Besides Logan, that was almost every X-Men movie in a nutshell. You were right. No, I was right.
Logan was the only one to get a single movie. I could have done it all the other X-Men. I mean, I wanted to see a movie with Colossus.
Yes.
Alone.
That would have been good.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been good. I think you can play into the prejudice against mutant storyline, particularly if this thing goes in kind of a reverse House of M scenario, and Wanda somehow creates the mutants. You know, like maybe anybody who was affected by the blip, something happened to them when they're blipped back in that Wanda activates somehow at the end of this thing.
I could buy that, actually. I could actually buy that.
Then you've got mutants massively, prolifically across the world.
Yes, and that's how you make the whole Infinity War Endgame like wrap-up ending, I guess you could say, consequential, because you don't just have everything tucked in a nice bow and everything's all good again. You give it long-term consequences. That is a very good way of giving it that longevity of a storyline to play out. Not everything is all convenient. And I really feel like yes, especially with Cosmic. No, that's a good choice, Jake.
Yeah, I mean that's one way they could go that could let you play out the prejudice storyline.
You just gotta find a way to make it fresh because we have seen it play out a lot.
Yes,
and in the modern time where people are acting like they hate racism with phones and stuff like that and posting on websites, I really doubt the mutant racism would work still the same way in modern time. People trying to seem superior. I mean, look at the Inhumans. The Inhumans are now the mutants of the MCU. What are they going to do? They're going to stop hunting Inhumans and just going after mutants? That is, if any of you saw Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I didn't keep up well on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I'm definitely familiar with the fact that they brought the Inhumans in. And I think what you're going to find is that the MCU is going to just basically ignore Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep.
And we know they're ignoring the Netflix shows that were originally supposed to be part of the universe.
Yep.
So I think what you're going to find is they're just going to sort of ignore that any of that happened at all. I mean, Inhumans was so bad they canceled it like even before the first season was over.
Yep. Yeah, and that's unfortunate because I love those characters, but the problem is they try to make that show the mutant equivalent rather than embrace them as these people who like to live out in hiding, which that's what they're supposed to be.
Exactly.
But
look, the Inhumans are like mutants in some ways, but they do not face prejudice because they either hide among humans and cannot be detected through the same means as mutants, that they're safe, or they live in the Himalayas and in their secret alien high-tech city where no one can literally down. They are not a species to be prejudiced against because they literally are superior technologically and biologically.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to necessarily go that route because it'll almost become trite with the way that they played Wakanda in the cinematic universe. Because it's just going to be like another Wakanda. If you do
technically it is because Adeline as what's the name of their mineral of the Inhuman mineral? What's the name of that mineral?
Terrigen Mist.
Thank you, Nick.
They have the Terrigen crystals. Wakanda has vibranium. Wakanda has high tech. Adeline has high tech. They're pretty much the same thing, and live in seclusion.
And that's why I think they won't go there.
They are literally a ripoff of one another.
Yeah, agreed. And that's exactly why I think they're not going to go that way with it, because of them being a ripoff of each other. So that I don't think they're going to want to play the same story again. And I think what we're seeing with the very different world of this WandaVision show tells us that they're trying to strike out with more unique approaches. I mean, look, I could be wrong if Feige goes that way, but just something's telling me that they're trying to do things differently, and so they probably won't repeat roughly the same kind of presentation and show that we've already seen.
Well, they could do that. I remember there was a comic about the Inhumans living in a giant spaceship floating through space. What was the name of that comic? I think it was around the 2099 universe, I think. I'm not sure.
I did like the 2099 universe. Like Spider-Man 2099 was great.
Yeah, but most of it is too depressing for me. I don't like the possibility of apocalyptic futures. I like the chances of hope.
Yeah. Now, I love 2099 too, but I get what you're going from. Yeah, I mean, I'm more of a hopeful guy as well, but I did enjoy 2099 for what it was. Peter David and Rick Leonardi were writing a hell of a story at the time. It was one of those times where the multiversal concept made more sense. It wasn't about having 800 different Spider-Men or women or animals. I mean, what's his name? Miguel O'Hara actually felt like a unique character who felt like he stood on his own. Whereas nowadays, it's just different. Now it's just different variations of the same flavor.
For example, Miles Morales, he's an obvious rip-off of Peter and literally is taken out of him. I mean, did you just hear he's going to get his own clone saga instead of giving him something new?
It's depressing. Paint job Peter Parker. Paint job Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's not forget we're getting an Eternals movie that they're probably going to completely destroy the storyline. And, Nick, of course, mentioned he can't wait to skip that movie.
I'm serious. And I'm not I hate saying it because I respect the hell out of the Jack Kirby legacy. I really do. But that movie just looks so unfaithful to Jack Kirby's vision. And I wouldn't care as much about the race swapping, but if it happened, like the thing is, it's happening to every single franchise at every single way possible. Like when, all right, so say what you will about Michael Clark Duncan getting cast as Kingpin Daredevil, but at the time it felt genuinely honest. One, we all know Clark Duncan was a phenomenal actor. Two, it really felt like he was the best man for the role. It really did feel like at the time. Nowadays, it's happening so frequently, you don't know if they're getting cast on talent or just for a skin color palette to paint a different picture.
It's skin color.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's skin color.
At least at the time, I think we can all agree that when Duncan got casted, he truly felt like the right man at the right time for that role. That it doesn't feel like that way anymore. It doesn't feel honest. Nowadays, it happens so frequently, you don't even know anymore. And it's not about hating diversity. We can embrace diversity, but if you're saying everything needs to be diverse in order to be good, that doesn't make any logical sense.
And most of these species, like the Eternals, they're technically not even human. That should be diversity enough. The fact they're not human beings.
Yeah.
And they were diverse on their own. Jack the King Kirby, he used to do a lot of diverse characters on his own. There were a lot of good stories. Yeah. The Eternals, the New Gods, they were pretty diverse on their own. They didn't need much.
Lord thought it is Ginger side between Jimmy Olsen, your Annies, your Ariels. I mean, I'm not going to go into it, but we'll just say he's right. Let's just say he's right.
And Ginger side, I really don't.
Jimmy Olsen has suffered too much. They either blackwashed him in Supergirl or killed him in Batman v Superman.
Dude, it's like. I mean, I've argued with people about this. Oh, well, it's a different universe. I'm like, it's one thing if you just happen to race swap, but they decided we're not going to just make Jimmy Olsen this nerdy guy who lives life on the edge, because that's what Jimmy Olsen does. He's this guy he's causing hecticness at the Daily Planet, but instead they made this smooth, suave, perfected guy who's calm and cool and collected. I'm like, and you can easily get the girl just like, that's not Jimmy Olsen. That's not Jimmy Olsen.
Nice little nerd.
Thank you. We're getting so off topic.
I hate Ginger side. It pisses me off, man.
I'm not even Ginger, and I feel for Ginger.
To me, the MCU kind of died with Endgame. I'm only going to watch Eternals because I want to see Black Knight.
If there was only a virtual way you and I, Fenrir, can watch it, so we can just pick the hell out of it. Like, oh my god, that's it. Come to Illinois, and maybe I'll go see it just because you're coming here. That'll be the only reason, just so we can make fun of it. Just come to Illinois, we'll work it out. I'll pay for your ticket, even. I'll buy a pizza.
When it's free, let's both watch the damn movie and just stream about it.
Fine. We'll find a way. All right, fine. You win.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Redheaded women get turned into black men at a rather disproportionate rate. Yeah. the number of gingers that disappear is.
I'm even afraid of seeing the next G.I. Joe movie. What they're gonna do to Scarlet? My God. Dude, they're probably gonna turn into some black chick. They're doing that too much.
I don't know why gingers disappear. It makes no sense to me. It's
not even white human gingers. Look at Starfire. She's an orange alien with literally green eyes, and now she's a black woman who dresses like a prostitute.
I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a red-blooded American dude. I like skimpily clad hot chicks. Don't misunderstand.
Every man in the world likes chicks like that. There's no difference.
Yep, that is true. And that, Red Shirt says he'll break for blondes and brunettes, but he'll back up 2 blocks for a redhead.
When you do that too?
I'm not going to pretend otherwise. You think it's because a lot of great supporting characters in comic history were always drawn as redheads. So when you target a minor character, people won't mind, right?
But they're not just targeting minor characters. They're targeting great characters, big characters.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But hey, there's Nick back. All right.
It comes back. If they want to do race things, then there's a huge list of black characters in the DC universe alone, or in the Marvel universe, that are never used.
Yeah,
just leave the red. I mean, after Cyclone, my favorite redhead.
Yep. I'm not gonna get into it. I really won't, because we'll continue to go farther off with the WandaVision talk. And even though this is not my panel, I am remembering at the end of the day, this is Jake's show. We should get back on top of it. But Fenrir, let's just write out a list of things we can sound off on, and we'll save it for Friday night.
That is a great topic for your Friday night show, man. Absolutely. So, okay, back to WandaVision. This is what's great about streams, man. Natural tangents.
Here's a quick question.
Okay.
Quick question. Does anyone know anything about Dr. Fate's the Black Adam movies, Dr. Fate? Who are they going to cast? Is it still going to be Kent Nelson, or are they going to do race swap too?
I'm not even gonna think about it right now. I'm not, just so, because at least WandaVision, we're getting something entertaining, and I want to focus on optimism right now. But we'll save that for Friday. We'll have to think about that one, Fenrir. But okay, Jake, WandaVision, have at it.
Yeah. So, episode 3 of WandaVision, like, I enjoyed the shit out of this episode, man. So we've moved into the 60s or it's even the 70s now, man. Dude, let's start by talking about Vision's hair. For real. Like, because that was one of the most noticeable.
I would love to talk about that.
Immediate things to me in episode 3 was Vision's hair.
Yup, dude. Oh man, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's how you must have the same idea for me, because the first thing I noticed was the long hair, and then the sideburns were the most 70s thing possible. I'm like, yes. Paul Bettany is nailing that look, and I'm like, this is great. Once again, they're really committed to nailing the look and feel. And it's funny because nowadays we have so many like shows and movies come out that are very era driven, but I feel like this show has nailed these eras a lot better than most of these other movies or shows. And it's just a 20 to 30 minute show, and it's doing it better. Like, awesome.
coif that he's got and those burns, man. Oh, God, it was good.
I mean, I'm still really thinking about the weird afro.
Yeah. Oh, on Fox.
Herb.
Oh,
or
yeah,
on
which
Foxy.
one, right?
I was going to say, we had two of them, Herb and Foxy.
I was never a fan of those.
It was a very prominent look at its time.
They were perfect. I mean, just like Vision's hair, it was like perfect 70s. I loved it.
Yeah, they're really doing their work on this one.
Yeah, no, and that's good. And once again, that's good when we have a show that's not only actually from it looks. I like that they actually. It seems like they care about the show and the fact that they're actually like looking at specific comic arcs and then nailing like the look and feel of a certain era. Like there's people who are actually working on the show that actually are committed, and it shows. It really shows. And even if you don't like the show so far, which I think a lot of people's minds who don't like it, they might change once it's all said and done, historically played out. Anyone should acknowledge the work that's being put into the show.
Absolutely. Russ makes a great comment here. I mean, it even starts before the hair, right? But the extra footage for what was the opening credits sequence, right? Because this one opened up with just like the second episode with an opening credits sequence for the show that was perfectly time period accurate. And you had the music and the coloration and even the graphical design with like the diamonds that they're in and everything. It was so fucking 70s, man.
Yeah. Oh, dude. It was. I mean, just even the color palette too. I have to mention the color palette. Like, if you didn't know you were watching a Marvel property, you could have swore you're watching something straight out of that era. You could have swore that, and that's once again, it's a testament to the work being done here. And it almost makes me once again. I mean, we could be jumping to a conclusion with this episode and the other Marvel shows going forward, but it feels like so much heart is being put into the show. It makes me wonder if it's gonna like set a gold standard that the other shows might have a hard, peak to reach because it shows such a unique thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and Russ, another great comment.
It's keeping my hopes up, but who knows? I don't think it's gonna. I'm pretty sure they're gonna try to turn him into Batman, basically.
Well, as our good buddy Draco Argentis would always say, "Stay frosty, my friends." Right? Because I mean, we're getting a good show in WandaVision.
Yep.
But we've got more shows coming that could be total dumpster fires.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And Miss Marvel, the She-Hulk show, both written by people that are not very. What's the word I'm looking for? Sane fan comics. Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, Russ makes another great comment here. So Vision's trying to assemble a swing set, because of course the kids are coming, and it was a 10-second, if that, throwaway joke during the opening montage.
Yeah,
and it was better than some entire shows.
Yep.
And once again, period perfect.
Yeah, it really was. The cheesiness too, like of it, it's just like and. Dude, like especially like you see that he's like the dad who's trying to be, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, I bet this." Oh no, it came crashing. And usually, like if that happened in a modern show, people would be like, "Oh no." Whereas Vision's like, "Oh, it's okay. I'll just build it back up again." that is how you nail once again the element of that time, and it really makes you think, "Wow, how far we've come along with TV." Like everything nowadays. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and place in the world for our deconstruction type of things, but it seems like nowadays there's so much nihilism and deconstruction. Like we forgot how optimistic and happy and cheerful these shows, and dare I say positive influence, these shows were. Nowadays this show brings back those memories in the best way possible. I wasn't even alive in the 70s, and I feel that energy,
and yet at the same time something really ominous is hanging over this show.
Yep.
While they are doing that.
Yep. And it makes it that much more ominous and powerful. Like when you have that balance. Because I feel like when you have something that's dark, sometimes you lose a little bit of that darkness because it's just so emphasizing on it. But when you have something that is, this happy-go-lucky, and then you have that dark, it makes the dark moments that much more effective. It really does.
Yes. So Wanda's pregnant, right? That's episode 3, right? Wanda's pregnant. That's the premise of the episode. There is a creepy fucking scene at the start of the show where they get the doctor out of there after he just confirms that she's pregnant, and he does this ridiculous, chauvinist trope about we're going to make it easy for the little ladies to understand what's happening to them by talking about fruits, which was so fucking cringe. But it was done. It was the right kind of cringe.
No, it was the cringe that actually fitted. It really was.
Yeah, it was the campy cringe, and the doc played it fucking perfect. He was good. And Vision walks out, and there's Herb with his giant afro, trimming the hedges, and he starts trimming the wall.
That was great. Once again, that's what I call great TV. Seriously.
Yeah. But there was more going on there, though.
Oh yeah. Oh,
right.
God.
So why was he cutting through the wall, Nick?
I think he was just caught. He was a caught off guard moment. I mean, I had to think more about it, but there's definitely something up there. Like there's a not all is as it seems moment. I'm still trying to figure out the why. I really am.
What are you thinking, Fenrir? Why was he cutting through the wall?
I'm not still sure 100%. I'm going to have to drop it in this one. I'm still trying to exactly analyze the situation because I think this entire show just leads to so many possibilities that it's hard to pinpoint all of them. Literally. The whole nightmare thing opens a lot of other positions to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think Herb is from Sword.
Mm-hmm. I think
and they're
so
trying
too.
to they're trying to get into Wanda's reality. I think that was symbolic of them trying to cut in and get in there. He's trying to break through the wall.
You think so? You think that's part
Absolutely,
of the wall?
Because look behind him. They did excellent scenery. It is so obviously fucking fake. So when you're looking behind where Herb is standing there, so Herb's house. It's a screen.
Oh, you're right. No, I saw that. No, I could see that. You're right, and I'm glad you mentioned Agnes. And I think that ties into Lord Thought's comment. I think Agnes is a younger version of Agatha Harkness. I think she's a younger version of Agatha Harkness. That's where I'm leaning with Agnes.
I've been saying that for half an hour, basically. Mm-hmm. It's Agatha Harkness. I don't know it. Just younger.
Oh yeah,
pretty much a bit hot.
Yeah, that's a good comment there too, Russ. What we were talking about, how the scenery is changing and adjusting through each episode.
Yep, the house too.
That was a real house next door in the previous episode. Now it's a set, and it's obviously a set.
Oh yes, it's definitely getting more obvious. And I think that's the whole gist. Is it's supposed to look more obvious?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the illusion is starting to get cracks in it.
Yep, this is once again the cracks are starting to show. Exactly that, as you mentioned earlier. Like they're trying to break into this world, this nightmare. Dare I say? It's one or the other, and they're like, and now we're. That's why the color's slipping in. Now I just wonder how a toy got in there first, but it's okay. It definitely has you thinking. This is once again sorcery. Magic. It feels like this could be one of the good elements of the MCU going forward is how they're going to emphasize on the magic. I mean, especially with Sam Raimi on the front for the Strange sequel and this show being as committed as it is, these could be the exceptional properties. These really could be the exceptional properties.
Yeah, and at that same wall that Herb is cutting through later in the episode, we got Agnes, and she's standing there having a conversation with Herb,
Yep.
and you can only hear whispers of it.
Yeah, they weren't all happy-go-lucky. It seemed like they were having like an important conversation.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Vision confronts him,
Yep.
right? And they want to tell him something.
Mm-hmm.
They're this close, right? They want to tell him something really important that they know, that they think he needs to know, but they stop short of it. And then Agnes, God, that actress is so good.
Yeah, no, she's awesome.
Hahn, isn't it? Isn't that her name?
Catherine Hahn.
Catherine Hahn, yeah.
No, she's excellent in the show.
And-
Seriously, A+.
She breaks out of her real character back into her television show persona.
Yeah. Yeah.
And fires off a 70s sitcom joke.
Yeah.
And
I know what the train. No, seriously, like she was truly a talent for this show. This was, you are talented, you are awesome, you're in. Get in, buckle up now. She's awesome.
I can't even realize, is this real life? I myself can't even realize, is this real life or is it just all in Wanda's head? I mean,
and it could be.
Westview just want real place.
Well, I think we do get an answer to that question, at least partially, at the end of the episode.
So, when the sword trucks show up.
Yeah, so at the same time that Agnes and Herb are teetering on telling Vision what the fuck is going on, inside you've got Monica Rambeau, Foxy, Geraldine, whatever name. Yeah, she's inside talking to Wanda, and
Pietro.
Yeah, right. Wanda remembers her brother Pietro, and it's a moment of clarity. And Foxy says to her, "Well, didn't Ultron kill him?" And right, so huge penetration of the real world into the show, and it fucking shakes Wanda.
Yeah, dude, I felt the tenseness in that moment, and I have to mention, because it really adds another layer to, once again, because people overlook Age of Ultron, and I can understand that to a degree, but now you realize, once again, it shows you that movie was not a throwaway, because there is an element that's now playing out. Here we are 6 years later from that movie. Like, there is payoff, even in movies like that are, I guess, more throwaway than others. Like, that's good to see the continuity be consistent in that. And appropriately, when I finished the episode, it asked if you want to watch next Avengers Age of Ultron. I laughed so hard. Like, you're just doing that to me, aren't you?
You bastards.
But that's a smart way, because there could be a normie watching this show not knowing the movies, saying, hey, this is your way. Want to know how that happened?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I think I'm starting to go insane, because was it just me, or the Hydra advertisement was all about soap? Soap.
That you missed something, Fenrir, in that commercial, and Jake, you may have missed something too. Because remember when they see you could just wash your palms away? Well, Wanda kind of did that to Foxy. I'm just putting 2 and 2 together.
I think Wanda is the one imagining all the Hydra stuff.
She washed her palms away, and that was like what that commercial was about. Like, can you just wash your palms away? And well, Wanda did just that. So I'm just saying, that's a very odd parallel between the two. And I think we gotta start paying more attention to these commercials.
Well, the commercials matter.
Commercials matter. Oh, they matter.
Oh, they do.
Good, though. Look for the clues of the commercials. And I love, once again, this show is playing smart now. This show is saying, hey, look, there's some substance here. Pay attention.
Yeah. I mean, Monica tries to burst through Wanda's delusion. And let's face it is a delusion, right? She has created this. I'm sure of it. And, Monica tries to burst through it. And so what does Wanda do? She throws her out of it, physically throws her out of there. And we see her flying out through some kind of field, right? There's some kind of force field up that Monica gets thrown out of. And outside that field, you see a sign that says, "Welcome to Westview," which is the name of the town inside Wanda's world. So it was / is a physical place that Wanda has inhabited. and there is protection around it that Wanda is living inside. And Sword is in there with her. Yeah, and then Russ says,
you see the name for the kids? Tommy and Billy.
No,
They're
yeah,
really
those
going
are
with
the
the comics
kids.
on this.
Yeah, they went with straight with the comics on that element. Yeah, no, that's cool that they did that. That they actually went with that. Once again, there is a good considerable amount of respect to the source material, as I mentioned earlier. I mean, now this just furthers the notion as the proof is in the pudding, man. Because Tommy and Billy, the fact because when it was Tommy who came to life first, right? Tommy who came to life first when Wanda was giving birth. Was it Tommy? Can anyone refresh me on that? Chat, Jake, or Fenrir? It was Tommy who came first. It was Tommy who came first.
Tommy first, yes.
Yeah, it was Tommy first. And then I remember after he came to life, I thought in my head, I really hope they go for the comic, and they had both. And then they did. And then that was hilarious.
But interesting though, right? So Tommy is what Wanda wanted to go with.
Yes.
So this is Wanda's world.
Yes.
So she cranks out the baby and she gets her baby. And then she presumably decided to give Vision his baby as well. And that's why the second baby pops out and we got Billy.
Yes, absolutely.
And holy shit, we can't not discuss this piece. So when they're talking about the baby names, right? So Vision describes why he likes Billy. And he says, after William Shakespeare, the great storyteller, all the world's a stage. Just like this show. This entire show is a stage.
I forgot that line. Yeah, I remember that now.
Once again, the intelligent self-awareness without breaking the fourth wall.
The smart writing.
This is very smart writing. And once again, as I said earlier, they are really putting some serious substance into this show. And it's just saying, hey, look, if you're just watching at face value, you'll enjoy it. You might even consider entertainment that you won't watch again. But if you pay attention more, there are layers to this show if you pick up the pieces. And there truly is. That is how you benefit from a show that has rewatchability. And this show has it because I've watched all these episodes at least 2 or 3 times each, and I've picked up on something different.
I want to go back and watch the first 3 episodes yet again.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, and I truly mean that. It
is so goddamn clever.
It is one Geek for Apologies comment.
And it kind of makes sense that she's creating everything around 60s to 90s shows, seeing that she came from a third world country, and all American shows from those times passed a lot through those countries.
Yes.
She probably watched it as a kid.
Absolutely. Yeah. Her idealized in her head version of life comes from those sitcoms. And that's why that's what we're living. There was an image that I saw that if this works out the way I think it's going to, based on this image I saw of Wanda and the way that she was dressed, I think one of these episodes is going Married with Children. And I'm going to be so happy if they do that.
Please let Vision be Al Bundy. I probably would shut up about it. I probably had to get it just off the bat in a non-objective 8 out of 10, maybe 8.5 just for Married with Children. Maybe because I'm obsessed with that show. And that's going to be the hardest one to not contain a bias, because Married with Children is a very peak show of my life. And I'm glad to know, Jake, we were both thinking the same thing.
I saw that image. I'm like, holy shit. Wanda looks like Kelly fucking Bundy in this image.
Love and marriage, love and marriage. All right, I'll stop singing. I had to for the chat. It's not the song that you did ask for, but the one that you needed. Okay, I'll say.
Oh man, I really, really want to see that, because that would be Geek Tropology. So, that would be hilarious. And that's sure what that image looked like, man. It looked like Wanda as Kelly Bundy.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. I mean, hey.
Dude, they're laying into all these other classic sitcoms so well. I mean, why not that one?
Right? I'm just saying.
Yeah, and Geek Tropology says he's been feeling that show in the mix more than once. Yeah, that'd be fun, man. But let's talk about the rewinds. So we see rewinds in episode 2 and episode 3. There's two instances of them. So the first one is when, again, they're hearing all the sounds and the crashing from outside. Sword trying to break in. Anybody?
Yeah. Yep. The signal, and it showed. Yep. It was obvious.
And beekeeper guy comes out of the manhole.
It could be Nightmare.
Could be. Is it? Considering that the commercial in that episode tied to bad guys, the beekeeper's probably somebody we don't want in there. And Wanda just no, and zzz, we get the rewind, right?
Or it could be another one. The Advanced Idea Mechanics. I mean, the Advanced Idea Mechanics.
Yeah, AIM.
It could be AIM.
They're B teamed. They're B teamed. So
they were. You're right. They were the B team. Oh God, that'd be clever if that's what that was. Ooh, I like that idea better.
Right?
Yeah, and then we get another rewind in episode 3, though. And when do we get it? It's when Vision starts breaking out of the illusion. Bam! We get a super fast rewind because Vision realizes something is wrong, and Wanda rewinds him, and it's gone.
Yeah, and once again, as I mentioned earlier, it's like one of those parts where it's just like, I thought there's something wrong with my TV because the second episode, it was obvious we as the audience knew it was rewinding, whereas this time it was just like, did the show just skip, or is that my TV? But then, I after the episode went online, after I finished watching the episode, I went online to look at cons, and people like, oh no, it's part of the show. But that's good. That's once again, clever. Once again, clever.
Yeah, everything about this is smart. You got Twilight Zone feeling. You've got Russ Williams referenced Twin Peaks. We've got the interplay of all these classic sitcoms everywhere. It's so goddamn clever. It's one of the cleverest new concepts on TV that maybe I've ever seen.
Yeah, I might have to say, I might agree. I mean, especially when it's all said and done, we'll have a better picture to paint over. But so far, 3 episodes in, 33% in, 1/3, however you want to paint that number. Right now, we are on to something truly awesome. And I really hope this picks up and maintains because, it feels like it's on to like that wait for it. Mindfuck.
Yeah. Geek Trolley. The show's too clever for its own damn good. Yeah. The only worrying thing about that to me is sticking the landing.
Yeah, that's a problem. When you build something like this, how do you stick the landing? Yeah, how do you do it? Oh, yeah, that is like, I wouldn't say it's a general worry, but it definitely makes you think, how is it going to be pulled up? Because they are raising a bar, a very ambitious bar. Very ambitious, and it really is like people are saying how different it is from the MCU, which it is, but it's different doesn't always equate to good. But this is different that is already equating to, dare I say, great. And because it's great, it's just like, man, this really hopefully it sticks the line because that's how the show is going to be defined by. That's what it's going to be defined by, especially if it truly ends up being what I've been predicting. Once again, fuck you, I was right. A limited mini series. This doesn't feel like a show that would be several seasons. This feels like a one and done season. Unlike your Falcon and Winter Soldiers, I can see that, or Loki being your several season format. This is a one and done limited series that to truly stick the landing, it's going to be remembered off its ending. Like, people will talk about our things from the week to week formula, but the ending to cap off the limited series, you have to stick the landing. This is so important right now that they don't mess this up. It's so important.
With how
good. I have a question, but did you see a cat?
Say that again.
Around. Did any of you see a cat around the scenes of the show? Just one cat.
If there was one, I missed it.
I did not notice it. No black cat I saw.
That would have helped make sense who was Agatha Harkness. She always walks with a freaking cat.
There is a cat in the trailer associated with Agnes.
And there we go. They're really doing it all in this one.
I hope so. I hope so, man. And yeah, I mean, Geek Tripology says if you don't stick the landing, if you're clever, you stop and levitate centimeters over the ground.
Oh, Geek Tripology.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's the only danger left in this show because the first 3 episodes were greatness.
Yes.
And when you have set up that well, it makes it that much harder to close it out well.
Yes.
Because you've raised the bar of expectations so high that if you don't sew this up right, people are going to forget how amazing the start of the show was. And they're only going to remember if the landing gets flubbed.
Yep. That's how it's going to be defined by.
Game of Thrones, anyone? Lost, anyone? Right?
Oh,
great setups.
Yeah.
And they completely flubbed the endings.
Yep. And that's the thing. Like, I haven't seen all of these shows, but I'm very well aware of the happenings. I'm very well aware, and I'm aware of the fueling the flames of divisiveness over how controversial these endings were. And with these endings, like, it's just like, man, what's an ending aim? What's a good ending for a show? Hopefully this is the one that gives us it. Because I understand this is not the end of this timeline going forward. And I understand this needs to cut into a movie going forward. But you can still, if you're not lazy, bring a great ending to what will most likely be a limited series. You can bring a great ending still. You can do it. I mean, so far it feels like these writers are the absolute reverse of lazy. And I mean, as I've said before, and I'm sorry for echoing my own statements, but I've said that these writers really know what they're doing because they've taken characters who are the Scarlet Witch and Vision, who are very powerful characters, but they put them in this environment that is truly like messing with them. And people say, you hear a lot with like the Supermans and Thors of the world that all these characters are so overpowered, it's hard to write them. And I'd say, no, that's just, you're being lazy, right? If you need to constantly depower them, you just need to put them in you got to be creative and put them in a challenging environment. And here we are.
Being a Mary Sue. No one likes that.
No, this show put Wanda and Vision, especially more so Wanda, in an environment that you wouldn't feel as challenging, and it is. And here we are seeing that, and you're seeing these characters who are very powerful. They're not being depowered. They're not, being. God, just there's so many. They're not being unworthy. Like they're
being mind fucked.
Yeah, they're being mind fucked, which is. Once again, all it takes is the right writer to deliver that. It takes a right writer who wants us actually think about how the story is going to play out, not just, this is hard to do, so I'm just going to take the easy way out because, reasons are a thing. So, no, right now I'm pretty sure the show's going to deliver. If it doesn't, I'll be sad, but I'm pretty sure it's going to deliver with the smartness we got thus far.
Yeah. And Geek Tripology, you make an interesting comment here, and we were actually discussing this pretty significantly before you joined the stream. And that was, the show would be harmed by a firm landing. You need it to end in a way that every movie coming next is affected. So it never really ends. It keeps going. And that is exactly what we were discussing earlier in the stream. And you are dead on right, my brother. however they close this out, whether it's a reverse House of M that creates mutants, whether it's something that opens up the craziness of the mystical world to the world at large, what introduces some crazy villain like Nightmare, whatever it is, like, it's, to your point, it's got to have long-reaching effects.
Huge apologies following comment. Dude, you are mad. You gotta get on these panels more often. You got some great stuff to say, sir. I gotta give you my hats off to you, figuratively and literally, because you are right.
Yeah, exactly. If Wanda's making mistakes because she's not a Mary Sue, right? Of course, if it was Ray,
yeah, she's learning. That's what she's doing. Honestly, she's actually learning at a time, not being given everything in just a second, like little Mary Sue Ray Palpatine.
Oh man! All right, guys. Well, I think we want to wrap her up for now. This has been a great chat, man. We've been rolling for about an hour and a half. Because there's so much to talk about with this show.
No, that's what I love. We could do an easy hour and a half more, but we'll obviously we all have our lives, and you got another live stream you gotta do later today. But you're right. There's a lot with this.
Yeah. So, final thoughts, Nick. Anything you want to plug? What do you got coming up this week, brother?
I've got a video that's going to be the Not Everything Doesn't Need to Be for Everyone Part 2. So I have a sequel, and I'm going to do more WandaVision covering. I also got my Tuesday night 32 Flavors of Entertainment panel. And also, I'm going to start a Friday bi-weekly comic chat panel, and Fenrir here will be with me for this coming episode. So I'm also at 189 subscribers. I've had a very great month. People are not only subscribing to my channel, but they're actually watching the videos. So that's a great thing. So thank you all for the new subs. And also, Jake D's channel is on an explosion crisis that I love. So if you aren't subbed to Jake D and you're somehow watching it, you've messed up. So anyways, I will hopefully be on tonight as well and watch all the good things in the world. When you got shows like WandaVision and Cobra Kai's, people watch them, respond to them, because this is how Hollywood can maybe listen. If they see we are responding as nicely to where we have these shows, where we have our Wandas or our Miguel Diaz's, where we see, look, it's not about the diversity, it's you. There's character arcs that we want. Right now, we are having shows where we can invest in. Keep responding, people. Exactly. Keep responding and respond loudly so we can show them, yes, this is what we want. When we respond the same way we responded to Sonic the Hedgehog last year by actually going on and singing it, someone's going to listen. It may not be a right response right away, but long term, we're going to win this culture war. And that's all I got to say about it. I've gone on for a while. This is our end game. So, all right, you all have a great evening.
Save some shit for Friday.
Fenrir, final thoughts, man. What are you thinking?
I think this show can go pretty well, especially if they have numerous directions to go with this. They can pick any villain to be behind everything, because it doesn't only have to be mystical, it can also be scientific. That's the beauty of the world of comics, that anything can work both ways.
Very good.
And as a small request, I would pretty much like the people in the chat to please sub on my channel, because, well, the more subs I have, the more I'll feel obligated to actually make something.
If nothing else, we can do a stream or two on your channel, by God, Fenrir. But yeah, hey, everybody, thank you so much for watching, man. We've kept a relatively consistent audience of about 6 to 8 people throughout this entire hour and a half. It has been really good having you. The chat has been absolutely on fire, which is one of the best parts about these live streams, man. I'll be going live again this evening at 5:15 Central Time for Howling About Entertainment, where we take a little bit more broader discussion about general happenings and entertainment and pop culture, particularly genre shows, because it's really, kind of this prestige television that's the big focus of the Jake D channel. So 32 Flavors of Nickweiser is a frequent guest on that show. Fenrir, if you would like to pop in, you are cordially invited, my friend. Yeah, we will be missing our good buddy Matt, Foulball Productions, this evening, because he'll be on a plane, actually, to pop here to Central Texas. We're going to be heading out he's seeing the lay of the land. So we won't have our good buddy Matt this evening, but frequent guests where we talk about just all of this kind of stuff, pop culture in general, prestige TV shows. We'll definitely talk WandaVision. We'll be talking The Expanse. If everybody's finally caught up, maybe we can finally have a Cobra Kai discussion.
I'm caught up. I finished it this morning. I finished it. Season 3 and all. I finished it this morning. So let's talk.
All right. And then, of course, Tuesday evening on the Jake D channel, we will have our weekly live full spoiler reaction stream to The Expanse episode 9. We go at 9:30 Central Time for that show. And could be a little bit unusual this week. I'm going to put out a couple of invites. If I'm lucky, we may have a couple of special guests, which would be absolutely great. and then my continuing self-torture of watching and reviewing CBS's The Stand is every Thursday night until that show is mercifully finally put into its grave.
At least you're doing it for a reason. I've literally been watching Star Trek Discovery for no reason and just doing psychological damage to myself.
You are a braver man than I, Fenrir. I won't touch that one. All righty. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We do appreciate you being here, and we will catch you on the next stream.